Ladies and gentlemen, from C4 Wrestling and Interspecies Wrestling, the one, the only MVP, Michael Von Payton. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on tonight, guys.
Now, the reason we have you on this week is there's a big show coming out here in Ottawa, Fighting-Back.ca, benefit for all the benefits go towards the Canadian Cancer Society, and you've got a big match on the card. You'll be going one-on-one against Jay Lethal.
Absolutely. Now, like you said, this is the second year running. Last year, Fighting Back was able to donate over $10,000 to the Canadian Cancer Society, and we're hoping that having matches with guys like Jay Lethal, we've also got Harry Smith and Bobby Lashley on the event. We're hoping that we can put well over $10,000 in the pockets of the Canadian Cancer Society this year.
And I believe you took part in the first show last year as well.
Yeah, I did. I had hosted an open challenge last year as well, and it was answered by Tommy Dreamer, and wasn't expecting to get into a hardcore match, and he, with Jack Tunney's approval, made it a hardcore match, so I was less than prepared, and he squeaked one by me, but I'm looking for some redemption this year.
Now, for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about MVP? Like, how did you start in the business?
Well, I actually got started, I started training in 1999 in just outside of Ottawa on the Quebec side of the border, and I was training with a group called Battleground Academy, which was part of Universal Wrestling Alliance, and pretty much did a whole lot of nothing for the first couple of years of my time in pro wrestling, and that's when MVP came about, when I migrated back over to the Quebec side and started wrestling for Canadian Championship Wrestling. And there's going to be a lot of fellows on the Fighting Back show who got their start in CPW alongside with me.
I remember those old days. I remember going to some of those shows, especially there was the show at the old Capital City Music Hall I went to. That was quite interesting.
You're referring to the UWA, right?
Yeah, UWA.
Yeah, I had left by that point in time due to differences between myself and people in that promotion, but that's, I guess, been a common theme with me over the years.
Now, for those who don't know, MVP here is, I guess you call him technically a member of the Straight Edge Society. I remember you were in a skit on SmackDown a couple years ago.
When SmackDown came to Ottawa, Canada, actually right around 2 years ago, WWE gave me a call as I was on their list of people in the Ontario region. So they asked me if I wanted to come in for a tryout and have a spot on TV that night. So, of course, you're going to say yes, and I went and I got to wrestle with Arn Anderson for 30 minutes in a pre-show warm-up, I guess you could say, and then later on that night, live on SmackDown, CM Punk shaved my head for the world to see.
No, and that must have been something, wrestling Arn Anderson.
You know what? I think that was probably the highlight of it for me, growing up being such a huge fan of 80s wrestling. Not so much NWA or WCW, but more World Wrestling Federation. Getting to get in with Arn Anderson, remembering watching him as one half of the Brainbusters was pretty sweet to get in and do that.
You've heard before people who confuse you with the other MVP, the one that's currently wrestling in Japan. So why don't you clear that up? Because I think you had the MVP gimmick first before him.
Well, I've been doing the MVP gimmick since probably early 2001. So yeah, I've had it for quite a few years before Montel came along.
Did it bother you at all then that WWE brought in a guy named MVP when you were already out there on the indies as MVP?
No, I mean, even if it did, what can I really do about it? I suppose at first I had a lot of people actually contacting me because they thought I got signed to some sort of a contract, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And 4 or 5 weeks later, I started seeing Montel Porter on SmackDown, and I said, oh, this is the guy. But at the end of the day, it didn't really bother me a ton. I mean, there's nothing I could do about it anyway.
That's true. Unless you had it trademarked, in which case then you could probably get them to pay up in some form.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, anyway, what do you think of the other MVP? How do you rate him compared to yourself as a wrestler?
Well, I mean, other than the guy being probably 20 or 30 pounds heavier than me, I don't think he's really got any other attributes that would come even close to mine. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have the greatest things to say about him, but I don't know him, and I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to him either. So.
Well, spoken like a true MVP. When you're the one and only, you don't need to pay attention to the pretenders to the throne.
Exactly, you know it.
So you said that your match with Tommy Dreamer went hardcore unexpectedly on you. For those of us who didn't get the benefit of seeing it, how hardcore are we talking? Are we talking barbed wire, baseball bats? What happened?
He went about as hardcore as the venue could allow. I don't think he came with any props, so he just used what was close at hand. There was a vision-impaired gentleman's cane, every garbage can near the ring, chairs, belts, signs. Use your imagination. Whatever people bring to wrestling events was pretty much part of that match.
The website is Fighting-Back.ca. Yes,
that's right. Sorry, Fighting-Back.
That's cool. I'm glad you got that correction in there. But before we let you go tonight, I want to also ask MVP, what about Europe? Have you gotten a chance to work in Germany, France, anywhere over there?
No, other than North America, nothing at this point. There was a promotion in Germany, WXW, that got into contact with. Player Uno can appreciate this story probably because we had a common friend in the business who offered to bring us over, and each of us had made several arrangements over in Europe to do this 2-week tour, and our friend bailed on us, and he was the cash cow. So unfortunately, neither of us got to go do it.
Oh. Was that for the 16-carat tournament that they have every year?
No, I don't think it was for a tournament. It was just we were going to work at a couple spots in Germany, and then there was something in Ireland. But it was going to be probably about 10 shows over the course of 2 weeks, and our so-called friend bailed on us and took his money with him.
That sucks.
It was his to leave with anyway, but it kind of sucked that we both put in the effort at various times to get all these things arranged, and then he just decided, nah.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, but it's a sad tale heard often in the pro wrestling world of people booking wrestlers and then not coming through, but at least you didn't go all the way there and then not get paid. That would have been even worse.
Yeah, big time.
All right, well, we want to give you a chance to get in any closing plugs, your Twitter, Facebook. If you have MySpace, if people still use MySpace, you can plug that as well.
Well, I have a Twitter account that's MVP Von Payton, and I've also got my Facebook page, just Michael Von Payton. But I think more importantly right now, everybody needs to get onto that Fighting Back website and donate some money. Let's give the Canadian Cancer Society more than the $10,000 we did last year. If you go onto the forum, I believe you'll be able to see some of the auctions that we have up. There's a great number of packages that Interspecies Wrestling has brought forth. So give what you can. Give it if you can't, and help for a great cause.
I agree. Everybody check out Fighting-Back.ca. Be sure to help out the cause. It's a good cause. Unlike Wrestlers Rescue, you know that the people involved are actually going to get the money that it goes to the good cause in question.
Absolutely. Last year's event was great. This year's is shaping up to be even better. So if you're close enough to come, be there. If you're not, hop online and donate.
Absolutely. Peter, any closing thoughts before we let our guest MVP go tonight?
Well, what I'll do, Stevie, is I'll send you the link for the form so that we can post it on AngryMarks.com. A lot of good items are in the auction right now. But MVP, my last question to you is, who has been your favorite opponent all time?
Oh God, I hate this question. I'll say in recent years, I think wrestling El Generico has probably been one of my favorites. I mean, there's no doubt that he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, and there's no way you can have a bad match with this guy. And he even made sure that I had a decent match with him on the 2 or 3 occasions that we wrestled each other. So that's a daunting task of its own.